Hidden in this massive museum of pinball history are the machines collectors dream about and the games nobody talks about that absolutely deserve more love. Today, inside Ann Arbor Pinball Museum, we're hunting down the underrated gems, the forgotten masterpieces, and the holy grail machines that pinball fans chase for years. And some of these games might just surprise you.
Hey everybody, it's Gary and Ed from the Wild Dog Arcade. Today we are at
the Ann Arbor Pinball Museum.
So yeah, limited time thing. They're only open a couple of times a year. We got tickets to it come this year. Looking forward to playing a lot of games. They got like 500 plus games in here.
Yeah, there's so many.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll show you a bit of the arcade. It's got multiple buildings here, so it's quite impressive collection.
I can't wait. We're just scratching the surface at this point.
All right, let's go play.
Yeah. Here we are at Vintage Flipper World, also known as Ann Arbor Pinball Museum. Gary and I have only been to this location maybe twice before, and it is always amazing to be able to go back to this location and have an amazing time with all these machines. So it was a lot of fun just going through the building and playing what we could play. But in any event, here we go. We're jumping right into our very first pin. It is Stargate. It usually only sells for about $3,000, maybe $3,500 on pin side, but honestly, it is an underrated gem. You'll notice right there is a giant pyramid toy with an alien kind of coming out of there. Really, really awesome themes throughout the entire game itself. You've got exploration, you've got the mystery, you've got the ancient technology, and you also have fast, aggressive gameplay. The speed that you can get in this game is difficult. The shots can be fairly difficult as well if you're not timing things just right. It's chaotic energy for sure. That being said, it is more or less a underrated Gottlieb gem. Many players have skipped over games like Stargate entirely, and that's mostly because of the dominance from Williams and Bally taking over the pinball market. But as you can see, the game has great design in terms of what the shots have to offer. It has a wonderful visual presence overall. And when it comes to, historical purposes, this game represents a period where pinball manufacturers were trying to compete with video games, home consoles, and increasingly cinematic entertainment overall. So it was and is still a very fun pinball machine to try out. So if you have the means to do so, definitely check out Stargate. All right, another amazing unique pin is Bonsai Run, built by Williams back in 1988. It is definitely considered a holy grail pin, and for good reason. It is 8,300 to 9,600 on pin side, but here's the reason: the vertical playfield. Most pinball machines keep everything on a horizontal playfield, but Bonsai Run literally launches the ball upward to a second playfield mounted vertically in the back box. That means players will suddenly have to look upward instead of downward, watch the ball climb vertically, experience pinball almost like an arcade video game, and a whole lot more. Even today, it feels experimental. Pictures can't explain it. It's one of those machines you have to play. It does have that motorcycle stunt theme to it, and it does represent peak experimental pinball. I mean, during the late 80s and 90s, manufacturers were trying all sorts of crazy ideas. Moving toys, magnets, multi-level playfields, and so much more. I mean, it definitely matters in pinball history. It's a very memorable game. Even if someone doesn't call it their best playing machine ever, everyone remembers this game because of its iconic playstyle, because of its overall theming. And it feels like pinball designers are asking, can we even do this? And that's the spirit of Bonsai Run. Instead of refining traditional pinball, they tried reinventing how the player physically experiences the game. At the end of the day, all I can say is this pinball machine is a lot of fun to play. Speaking for myself, Bonsai Run is a game that every single time I get to see it on location, and it's not very often, but every time I see it on location, I'm like, yes, yeah, because of the weird, unique gameplay. And it's just a whole lot of fun to try to, outmaneuver and outsmart this machine. Even though you're not into motorsports, you're going to have a lot of fun with this game. Safecracker is our next game. This was done by Bally back in 1996. And man, what an amazing, unique machine it is. It is considered a holy grail pin, designed by Pat Lawler.
The price range is somewhere in the $8,900, $9,400 range, but there's a good reason for it. It has personality. I mean, it's got amazing, great amount of humor. It has some odd mechanics, some unconventional ideas, and it really does pull you in and want to play that game more and more. It doesn't try to be like a traditional pinball machine. In fact, here's that one mode that a lot of folks will talk about. It's the board game mode, and the player can advance around a physical board style path, which creates a feeling of progression that's very, very different from a typical pinball machine. Moreover, you've got a magic token feature. Is the game's most legendary gimmick. When players reach certain achievements, the machine will dispense a physical token called the magic token. The token can be used in a separate game mode, and it really made the game feel very interactive in a very unique way. So a lot of collectors, a lot of players really do have fond memories of this machine. There wasn't very many made, that's probably a good reason why it is more of a holy grail pin. It's not trying to be like a traditional pinball machine. It's not relying on multi-balls or large playfields. What it has personality. It feels handcrafted, and it has a unique sense of humor. But I mean, this feels less like a standard pinball machine overall and more like a pinball experiment. And that definitely was at the peak. I mean, I hate to say it over and over again, but 1996 was definitely one of those years where you had home consoles like PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and just the overall decline in arcades. So they were really trying hard to get something going, to get excitement, coming up on pinball machines again. So it's definitely a very special machine for a lot of different reasons, and it's well worth checking out. All right, coming up on our next pin that we're going to look at is Joust. This was done by Williams back in 1983. When you come across this machine, the only thing you can think of doing is, I want to play this against a friend. You can actually do a one-player mode. It has that ability, but it really, really does not give you that wow factor if you're not playing it with somebody else. So 2 players playing pinball at the same time. What? Yeah. Flippers on opposite sides. The players are facing each other. There is simultaneous gameplay. Instead of waiting for your turn, you are battling them directly. So it definitely feels more like an arcade duel. Now, the reason why it's so rare is because the concept was so unconventional and operators really weren't sure of how practical it would be. It occupied a lot of floor space. It definitely appealed to a niche audience on top of that. Very few true head-to-head pinball machines were ever produced because they were mechanically unusual. They were difficult to place commercially, leaving the players wondering, what am I looking for? That makes Joust feel almost like an alternative timeline for pinball design history. The gameplay experience itself is just hectic. Balls can collide, interfere, disrupt shots. The experience becomes less about precision and more about pressure, reflexes, competition. And it has that connection to the arcade game. I mean, the Joust arcade game itself really was an amazing, competitive, awesome experience to begin with. And then Williams translated that competitive spirit right into that physical pinball form. And this is an incredibly ambitious idea for 1983. And it even holds up to this day. That's the amazing thing about this game. So definitely check it out if you can.
Now, let's go ahead and take a little bit of a pause to see what vintage Flipper World is really like. Gary and I have only been on this location a couple of times before, and it became immediately apparent that they had actually added space and more machines to this place. It's such a unique location given the fact that it is kind of sprawled out a bit, almost like a maze, with 5 different, maybe 6 different spots to kind of roam around and check out. It was a lot of fun getting lost. It's just as much fun as it was playing every machine that I could.
And like I said, the nooks and crannies, you kept going from building to building, kind of looking around, almost like a journey on your own, kind of figuring and seeing what's there. Now, this is sort of one of the areas where they go in and they have a lot of parts. And there's reasons for having all of those parts because of the amount of machines that were there to begin with. I talked to one of the fellows there, and he was just telling me, yep, this is what it takes. we gotta be on top of all these things all the time. All right, here's another unique machine. This is Motor Show, done by Mr. Game back in 1989. Now you'll notice right away that there's a video monitor that is integrating elements in the game itself. And later on, you'll see some some video footage of the different modes that are on that monitor, but you'll also probably have noticed that the Zaccaria name is also attached to this machine. This is an Italian manufacturer. They were trying their best to compete against, the big names like Williams and Bally. And oftentimes these machines had a lot of unusual layouts. In fact, here I noted that the orbit shot is well hidden. Once you hit that shot, it's pretty much, you're gonna have to kind of time it. Not something that a lot of machines back in '89 really did, as well as having that monitor. A lot of machines were still using the DMD display for, things like the video modes and so forth. I also noted the look of the cabinet itself looks very weird and unique. When you look at it, it just looks so bizarre. It definitely stands out. Something to note too is as I was playing this game, I did feel that it was a fun and unique style. To bring that together with that video mode that was just so out of this world for its time, it's definitely a game worth checking out if you have the means to do so. These games are so rare. In fact, there's some estimates out there. There's probably only about 50 to 70 of these things that exist. And if they do pop up, you might get one for about 6,800. Yeah, but here's one of the video modes, which is literally a screen that you see nowadays on a typical Stern or any modern day pinball that you will come across. So definitely check out this game if you can. Anytime there's a rare and obscure as well as a unconventional and experimental pin, it's definitely worth taking note. All right, here's Starship Troopers by Sega. This was done back in 1997, again during a huge time in pinball where it was trying its darndest to stand out. But yeah, this being based off of a cult classic sci-fi license is a huge reason why there's a lot of love for this game. I particularly found it a lot of fun because of that third flipper that you see right there on the screen. It surprisingly is easy to kind of adapt to and actually really have a lot of fun with it. The machine feels like the movie for a lot of different reasons. This came along during the final years of traditional pinball. Things were getting louder, things were getting faster, more theatrical, more chaos. It stands out because of the giant bug toy. The machine's centerpiece was this massive brain bug that was mounted in the playfield and interacting with the shots and dominating the table visually. And for years, Sega pins have sometimes received a lot less respect than it should. But the machine feels like a movie, man. It's got some amazing strengths. It's overwhelming bug battles. This is one of the most common things that players remember about this game is they have a lot of huge multi-balls going on, a lot of frantic ball chaos and so forth. This definitely instantly gives the game some identity. It has so many different signature features. In fact, here's that brain bug that I was telling you about. This machine feels a lot like the pinball equivalent of an action movie, and that's what it's trying to do. Its uniqueness and its spectacle that it gives you definitely makes you feel that it is a machine to not mess with. Starship Troopers doesn't ease players into the action, it throws them directly into a chaotic sci-fi war filled with flashing lights, giant bugs, and non-stop multi-ball insanity. My goodness. I mean, by 1997, we were getting a lot of different things coming out, but this was definitely one thing to check out. All right, our next pin is Ripley's Believe It or Not. This was done by Stern back in 2004. This is actually a fantastic machine to talk about because it's loved by a lot of players, but it also gets overshadowed by flashier Holy Grail titles. So it's an underrated gem in my opinion. It has that creepy head as one of the main things in there, that shrunken head. Because of the source material being about bizarre world records and oddities, the game constantly throws unusual concepts at the player. This is a Pat Lawler design, and it's one of the early Stern games after the Williams-Bally era has ended. It's a player's machine. It's deep, it's challenging, it's definitely packed with shots and modes that will reward you every time you play it. And as I mentioned, the Pat Lawler DNA is everywhere. There's multiple looping shots, there's combo-heavy gameplay, and so on. So it has a surprising amount of flow. But yeah, the freak theme variety is definitely on display big time here, as you can see in this promo by Stern. Definitely check it out if you can. One of the more unique designed pins out there, one of the most unique licensed pins out there as well. So check it out. All right, coming up now is Circus Voltaire. This is a 1997 Bally machine. And let me tell you, it is not a cheap one too. $9,500 to $11,000, but it is a legendary machine. It has the Ringmaster, which is one of the most iconic toys in pinball history. A giant mechanical head will rise from beneath the playfield, taunt the player, and physically interact with the gameplay. And it feels alive because of that. The neon and the lighting really give it that awesome essence of being in a circus, as well as the backlights. The backlight design atmosphere is another amazing part of this, and it feels incredible to play the machine. The video footage can only do so much, but yeah, going and playing this machine will make you feel really as if you're with the Ringmaster and battling him. You got a high wire ramp, you got a boom balloon shot. It's definitely considered a huge work of art alone. The production numbers were limited. As an artistic and experimental machine, and being very mechanically ambitious, Circus Voltaire may be one of the purest examples of that philosophy. And finally, our last machine that we'll be talking about is Tales of the Arabian Nights. This was done by Williams back in 1996. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, honestly. But why did it become legendary? Well, you have things like the magical lamp. Of course, you have your genie that we saw earlier. The magic lamp itself make the gameplay dynamic because it will redirect the shots, it will physically spin itself, and the presentation itself is stunning. I mean, the other things inside this machine, things like the deep jewel tone colors, the fantasy artwork, the glowing inserts, all of that is amazing stuff. And it matters. It matters to get this particular version of it because of the fact that there was a final explosion of creativity before the late 90s pinball collapse. And so really to put this in perspective, why the collectors chase after it is it hits all those multiple categories at once. It's fun to play, it's mechanically memorable, and it appeals to all the players, whether you're a hardcore player or a beginner player. The remake may be something that's in the horizon that could affect pricing here and there, but let's be real. A lot of times the players, whether you're new to it or not, will really prefer the original machine over a remake. Now, Pendretti might prove us wrong and let us know that this is an amazing game, but we will have to wait until we see what that is like when we finally do get to play it. Make sure to check out our live pinball action every Sunday and Wednesday evenings Eastern Time, or you can watch us here on YouTube at Wild Dog Arcade. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and enjoying this video. We hope to see you next time.